Everybody right now is talking about how Japan absolutely dominated in the Paris 2024 Olympics, but I'm here to talk about how Japan is one of the best wrestling countries in the world and how they show up and show out every Olympic Games. But before we get into it, guys, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, notification bell is on. Also, got some good news. The brand Onev is doing a pre-launch drop this Friday, October 18th. The link's gonna be for the Instagram in the description along with the website, so stay tuned. I know I've talked about this before, actually in a previous video where I did a post-Olympic review on the Olympic Games in Paris. But Japan has been one of the most dominating teams that came through and wrestled in Paris. 13 weights qualified for them, 11 medalists, 8 of which of those medalists were Olympic champions. Now, some of you guys are wondering and thinking, wow, Japan just came out and just absolutely dominated this year, which they did. But actually, Japan's always come to wrestle at the Olympic Games. In Tokyo 2020, men had an Olympic gold medalist, Greco had a few medalists, and women's had 1 or 2 gold medalists, including Takuto Odoguro in men's freestyle and Yui Suzaki in women's freestyle. 2016, same thing happened. Rio, actually, I believe 4 out of 6 of the women's were actually Olympic gold medalists in Rio, which is insane, along with in men's freestyle having Olympic silver with Rei Higuchi. Going back even to before that, London 2012, 65 kilos or 66 back then was Yonemitsu was a gold medalist for Japan, and then at 55 kilos, I believe Shinichi Yunamoto was Olympic bronze. So, you know, with women also having Yoshida winning a gold medal and the greatest of all time in women's wrestling winning a gold medal. I can go on forever about how good Japan's been since even the 1960s, 1950s of having Olympic champions, Olympic medalists, world champions. They're definitely one of the best countries in the world at wrestling, but I'm here to talk about today how they dominated in this Olympic Games and how they come out and performed at their best every Olympics. So first and foremost, I think Olympic importance and the year of the Olympics is what really sets Japan apart. You know, obviously having a lot of success in combat sports in general with Japan, you know, judo, the origin of jiu-jitsu being from there, taekwondo, karate, and wrestling being one of the top sports in the Olympics for combat sports. Japan thrives here. So I think where they're investing most of their money and resources into the Olympic years, I think, you know, you see them coming at their best, especially on these Olympic years compared to the world. So the way that they put in importance for the Olympics as a country as a whole, you know, they're really locked in to winning medals, not only for their country, but for their honor and their own pride, because this is something that means a lot to them, going even outside the sport of wrestling for their country of Japan. Now, to further on that, I think their depth is one of the most crucial things as well, especially at the lighter weights. Obviously, Japanese people are usually tend to be on the smaller side, and so usually you see the domination within that 57, 65, even 74 kilo weight classes. You know, you can look at, for example, obviously Rei Higuchi was the Olympic champion this year at 57, and Kyuuka at 65 kilos won the gold medal. But it's kind of crazy because, you know, the last Olympic cycle, you have Takuto Odoguro, who kind of bursted onto the scene, won the World Championships in 2018, and then goes and wins the gold medal in the Tokyo Olympics in 2020. And you kind of see him, he goes in, doesn't make the Olympic team, loses in the semifinals, and everyone's like, oh man, like, who is it going to be? Like, Japan, we don't even know who this Kyuuka guy is. Well, ends up coming on and just dominating and winning the gold medal. So it just goes to show you that Japan, I feel like, has just this way of they burst out of the scene, make a statement, and then they quit wrestling and move on, or because of school, or someone else comes and beats them and ends up performing just as well. So that just goes to show you how Japan's depth is. Another thing that separates Japan from the rest is their style of wrestling. Compared to all of the schools of wrestling, when you look at Russia, USA, Iran, Cuba, you know, a lot of these other countries that have very good wrestling, I think Japan is probably the most different and also somewhat of the most difficult to wrestle as an American, as someone who grew up in the American system, even though competing for Serbia. I think that Japan just having a very outside style, very quick, athletic, you know, it's really difficult to kind of get your hands on them, but also they're so fast, they can find the leg, and you have to always be cautious. And on top of that, they're someone, even when you do get your hands on them, they can still wrestle. They're very wiry and scrappy. It's hard to really move them and snap them in front headlocks even. So them just being so strong and such good wrestlers, I think this just is something that they're not, a lot of the other countries aren't used to facing on, a lot of these European countries or Pan Am countries aren't used to facing. So when they do come and step on against a Japanese wrestler who's locked and loaded and ready to go and at their best, it's a difficult matchup. I also think their training regiment is something that sets them apart from the rest. I had the pleasure of being able to train in Japan for 2 weeks last year in 2023 in the spring, leading up to the World Championships. I was very thankful to go out to Tokyo, probably my favorite city that I've ever been to. I love Japan, I love their culture, I love their people, and I think being able to train in their system really gave me a feel for how they do things and how they're able to find success. I think one of the things that is their discipline and the way that they have that respect for each other, but also they don't hold back, and they want to make sure they show their all. I went in the room and I had 4 or 5 different wrestlers coming to wrestle me in these live goes, and you could just see, regardless of how good these wrestlers were, some of them were the ones, some of them were the number 2s, the number 3s, or even number 4s. They were coming to wrestle, and they wanted to give their all and prove to me their worth as a wrestler. Sometimes in the U.S. you come to camps or other places in Europe, in the country, other countries, you get a couple takedowns, and all of a sudden they break, or they're just kind of done and they get tired. No, these guys were wrestling me to the end. They did not care. They wanted to prove themselves to me and their worth to me, and I think showing that in general is an important thing. Having the amount of wrestling that they do and really pushing it to, with a lot of endurance, a lot of matches, a lot of training heavy on the wrestling side, I think that where maybe during the World Championships, some of these guys can maybe get injured, or you have some of the younger guys come up and make the team from the universities that are making the teams and doing well. It's hard to have the longevity with such hard training regimens, but on the Olympic years, they're really able to kind of dial that back and really focus in just for 1 year. And so I think that's where we see a lot of the success from these guys, is where they're peaked and ready just for that 1 Olympic year. I also was able to get presented these singlets from Takeda Odaguro, the Olympic champion. These are his singlets from the Olympic Games where he won the gold medal, which is pretty awesome. As you guys can see, I was super hyped to receive this. I gave them my singlets as well, along with Yuki Takahashi, who is the 2017 world champion from Japan. We actually wrestled each other first round at the Olympics, where I lost in Tokyo. But it was awesome that he hosted me at his school, Yamanashi Gakuin, in Kofu, Japan. And then I went and spent some time at PTS, where Odaguro is the coach. So where him and his brother took me around. So it was awesome, having that experience in Japan. I also got to train with and become friends with Yui Suzaki, who's on track to be the best women's wrestler for Japan. The last point I'm going to drive home, guys, that I think is pretty unique and interesting is their college system and their university. The way that it works in Japan is that these guys go and wrestle at university, just like we do in the United States. But wrestling is freestyle for their university, and it is from kids all the way through the senior level. So there is a correlation where these guys are going into the college room, they're maturing, and they're training with a lot of the best wrestlers on the senior level, as well as in college, and competing week in, week out in freestyle. So a lot of these guys are maturing a lot quicker mentally and tactically, strategically in freestyle, where they're able to go and compete at the world team trials, be in shape, and prove themselves at a younger age, where maybe in the US we don't see that as much, because a lot of these guys are tied up wrestling folk style in college and really can't focus on their senior level freestyle career until after they graduate. So I think that's why you see so much success with a lot of these younger kids, because they're still able to compete at 19, 20, 21, 22 years old, which is maybe their peak physical age, and come into making world teams for Japan, winning Asian medals, winning world medals, winning Olympic medals. And that's something different that we don't see. I do think that for me, I was 22 when I felt like I was able to physically wrestle at the senior level, but obviously felt like I spent my time divided between folk style and freestyle, wrestling for college in Michigan versus wrestling freestyle for Serbia. But for them, it's kind of one in its own, where they can kind of do it all at the same time. Now, what I'll say is what probably harms Japan from getting this legacy of knowing with some of these standouts is the length of these careers, the longevity of the career of a Japanese wrestler. A lot of them come into the scene, win medals, and then they're finished wrestling. That also has to do with the way that university works. A lot of them can perform and win these world and Olympic medals while it's still in college, and then once they graduate, they can kind of focus more on their career, where they can work in the the industry, making money, or they're giving back, they're retiring in their wrestling career, and they're making money as the coaches for Japan. Also, I just found out recently that the Japanese Olympic team actually is a just from a volunteer perspective. So most of them all kind of come together with their own individual jobs at universities or clubs to work together, where in the U.S. you have guys like a Mike Zadek or a Kevin Jackson, permanently having a job and a career as the developmental coaches for the Team USA or the Olympic world team coaches, national team coaches, making money. So, that's kind of a problem for Japan, where you just kind of see guys there's no legacy being built with some of these names. And I think that's where guys like Rei Higuchi stand out, where Rei Higuchi has been competing since 2016, and finally, with winning an Olympic silver in Rio, a world championship, a gold medal in 2022, a world silver in 2023, and finally wins the gold medal in 2024. You have someone who actually has a longevity in men's freestyle. The women's side definitely have that more longevity, where they're career oriented on wrestling more than men's freestyle and Greco. But overall, I think that's where we're missing out. We're not hearing about, guys like a Yazdani, a Sadulayev, a Jordan Burroughs, a Kyle Snyder, guys like that, Satiev, where, you have this longevity of somewhere 5+ years in the sport of wrestling. A lot of these guys will win, get their medals, and get out and focus on something else. But on the good news, you do have a lot of fresh new wrestlers coming in, and just I think that shows the depth of what Japan really has. Going back to, like I said, about the Olympic coaching, the wrestlers also aren't making much money wrestling either. Even winning a world gold medal, I don't think they're being paid anything for that. Going to the Olympics is the only place that they're really making money from the Japanese Olympic Committee, and that's something I learned when I was out there speaking to Otoguro and some of the other wrestlers. It's just it's difficult to stay in the sport as a wrestler, and so I think really anything longer than just one Olympic cycle is something that's difficult for a lot of these wrestlers to do. So in conclusion, guys, I just wanted to bring up some main points again. Their culture and their discipline as the Japanese people, I think, are really what kind of separates them with their training regiment and their camps, along with, just having so much depth in these weights, the lower weight classes, that really they can really peak and show out and perform at the Olympic Games, winning multiple medals, multiple Olympic champions, world champions pretty much every year, back to the date of the start of wrestling in the Olympic Games. So I believe that one of the contributing factors to why I won the World Championships was spending that 2 weeks out in Japan that spring beforehand, because the training was just amazing. The people were so thankful to have me there, just like at Dagestan, don't forget about Japan. Don't forget about Tokyo. It's very easy to get to just because it's far away. They love having people come in and train with them. They are such happy people, and they love the sport of wrestling. I got to train with a lot of different high-level wrestlers, world-class wrestlers in the room. You don't just train with one partner. You're switching partners from 7, 8 different guys. I got to learn technique from the coaches and really get a feel for how they train and what they do, how they do things, which I could kind of add into my game as well. Plus, my leg defense got tremendously better. Why? Because they're always on your leg. They're so fast. They're always attacking. They're very offensive wrestlers, and I really got to work on how to defend and how to protect my legs even better. That's it for me today, guys. Hope you learned a lot about Japan domination, and like this video, subscribe to the channel, notification bells on. World champs and everything we do, baby. Arigatou gozaimasu.